Hi guys, it's Beverly. We're going to make a sock tutorial. Now, this is a sock we're going to make. I'm going to use 4-ply yarn. So the sock is a little thick. It's more like a slipper sock. But the techniques are there to make a sock. So if you get yourself some acrylic yarn, it's best not to wear the sock on carpeting. There's something about the carpet, maybe the nylon in the carpet, that doesn't work well against the acrylic yarn. So even the first wearing of these, it would start making a hole. So if you plan to wear your socks, or the person that you plan to give your socks to, or slippers, has carpeting, get something with natural fibers, either cotton and wool or all wool, something with natural fibers, because acrylic yarn does not wear well on our carpet, and you wouldn't want to put all this work in and there be a hole in it right away. Okay? And think of this as a learning experience. And maybe down the road, if you like doing it, you'll buy yourself some thick sock yarn, or maybe some merino wool yarn, or some type of wool yarn in a lighter weight than this, DK or lower, sock yarn or DK, and make socks. But you can learn with this tutorial. This is acrylic yarn, and these would be fine to wear in bed. You know, keep your feet extra warm in bed. Some people like just to wear slippers in bed, or if you have a tile or wood floor. Of course, you have to be careful about slipping. That goes without saying. But that's what this tutorial is. I'm using acrylic yarn, and I'm making a sock with it. We're going to be talking about the dimensions for the toe, the dimensions for the foot, the dimensions for the heel, the ankle, and the sock. So let's get started with our sock tutorial. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Hey guys, it's Beverly. Let's start making our socks. Okay, so I got this pattern and I showed it to you earlier. I think that's so cool. So it says it's got 3 sizes, and I'm going to use an acrylic yarn. This acrylic yarn says to use a J hook. Well, I think it's a smaller size, so I think I'm going to use a G. And it says that you work in rounds, work in the round in a circle. After last single crochet on the round, continue to next round with 1 single crochet. Insert a stitch marker at the beginning of the round between last single crochet and the first single crochet, and move the marker. The piece is worked in rounds from toe to back to instep, then work back and forth, and then the beginning of the leg. So right here it says work 4 chain on hook and form a ring. Slip stitch in first chain. Okay, so let's do that. I had some yarn barf I got the yarn bar off camera. So it said do 4 chains. So we're going to go ahead and make a slip knot here. And we're going to do 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it says to slip stitch in the first chain to form a ring. And what I like to do is put my finger in that little hole. Now it says to work 6 single crochets in the chain ring. Okay, so we did a slip stitch to join the chain, and now we're going to do 6 single crochets in this. So we go inside the hole, out, pull through a loop, pull through 2. So that's number 1. Another single crochet, you go in the circle, yarn over, pull through, and you have 2 stitches on your hook, pull through. So that's 2 singles in the hole, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's number 3. This is number 4. We're going to do 2 more. So I'm going to go in the hole, yarn over, pull through the loop, pull through 2. So that's number 5. And we need number 6. So in the hole, pull up, and there's number 6. Now, to make sure you have 6, you can look at these little V's on the top. See them? So I have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first one is right here. And it says to go right into the next stitch starting the row. So we're going to go right in here, and it says to work 2. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to go into our first single crochet, and we're going to mark this from now on. Okay, and then it wants 2 in there, so we're going to go 1 and 2. So there was no join and there was no chaining up, so I just did 2 in there. And we're going to mark the first one. Now that was a little confusing. So what I did was I counted 6, back 6, and in my 6th, which was actually my first one, I'll take this out and show you again, okay? So right here was the first one, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's the first one, 6. So I took my yarn, and it says not to join it and not to chain. So we're going to go into that first stitch, pull through, and make a single crochet. So that's 1, and the pattern says to do 2 in there. And I need to show you the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this first stitch, which you'll see it. I'll take my hook out. This is the first stitch right there. So I'm going to join my hook or my stitch marker right there. Okay. Now let's take a look at the pattern. All right. Now, first thing it says here, it says work in the round in a circle. After the last single crochet on the round, continue to the next round with one single crochet in the next single crochet, which is the first crochet from the previous round. So that's what I did. We did 6 single crochet for row 1. Now I'm going to show you the pattern. Row 1. Work 6 single crochets in the chain ring, and that's what we did. Then it says follow the directions in the work in the round, and the work in the round said to do a single crochet in the next single crochet, which is the first single crochet of the previous round. Now hopefully that makes sense, because what's going to happen is when we go into row 3, we're going to be going in the first stitch of the previous round, and that's what that is. Now we're going to continue row 2, and row 2 says to work 2 single crochets in every single crochet. And when we go to round 3, we are not going to join, we are not going to chain, we're just going to single crochet in the stitch, the first stitch of the previous round. Okay, so this stitch right here is the first stitch of the previous round, and I did 2. This is the first stitch of this round. Okay, so now we're going to do 2 single crochets in this next stitch. And 2 in the next one. See, I got 2. See them? 1, 2. And then I'm going to go in the next stitch and do 2. 1 and 2. And 1 and 2. And I got 1 stitch left. See it? That's the stitch. So I'm going to do 2 in there, and then we're going to count. So do 2 in there. And then we're going to count and make sure we have 12. And so I have 2 in there. And how we're going to count these is by, you can separate it and do it that way, or you can do the loops on the top. So we should have 12. So we know this is the first stitch of this row because of the stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now I got to start over because I might have made a mistake in my counting. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I got 11, so I got to figure this out. So there's the first stitch, and I've got 2 in that one. And there's 2, and I got 2 in that one. And it looks like I only have 1 stitch in this one. See? So I'm going to pull this out. This is what's good about crochet versus knitting. Okay, so I only had one in that one. Because you can take it out without the whole, so much problems. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I should have 12 this time, but we're going to count again. So I'm letting you see my mistakes so you can learn from them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, we don't join to this first stitch. We don't chain 1. Okay? So now the pattern says for row 3. For round 3 and then every other round, work 1 single crochet in every stitch on row 3. 1 single crochet in every stitch. And if you look at our pattern, look, it's only showing us row 4 and row 6, row 8 and row 10, and then row 12. So what that means, that every odd numbered row, you work 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay? So we're going to do 1 single crochet in row 3, 1 single crochet in row 5, 1 single crochet in row 7, 9, and 11, and as we proceed. Okay, so here we go. We're not going to join this row. We're not going to chain 1. And if you're worried about your hole down here, we're going to use this tail later to sew this in. Okay, now what you can do if you would like is, if you have enough room to take your hook and put it in that first stitch with the stitch marker in it, you can leave it and do your single crochet. And now you know you're going to put that stitch marker right in here. So now you can take the stitch marker out and put it in that first stitch. And that is going to be the first stitch of this round. And it's marked. So right next door we have that little stitch there. And then right next door we have this little V. So that's where we're going in. And we're going to single crochet all the way around in each one of these little V's. And when we get done, we're going to count them and make sure we have 12, because we just did 1 in each stitch from the previous row. So row 3 is 1 single crochet in each stitch of the round. Okay, so we're not going to join. We're going to stop here and we're going to count. So we've got these little V's on the top, and that's what we're going to count. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then there's the 12th one. Okay, so I'm going to join my hook again. I'm not going to join the work, and I'm not going to chain. I'm going to look at row 4, and row 4 says 1 single crochet in the first single crochet, and then there's a comma, so I'm going to stop reading. Then it says 2 single crochets in the next, and you repeat that from there to there. You repeat it, and for a total of 18 stitches. So we're going to do 1 and then 2 in the next one, 1 and then 2 in the next one, and this is the beginning of another increase row. Okay, no chain and no join. So if you want to, like I said, you can go right in that first stitch where the stitch marker is, and do your first single crochet. Then we're going to mark the stitch, and we can lay our hook down if we need to. So that was our first stitch. We're marking it. See, it goes right in there, and it goes through both loops, or under both loops, or whatever. And then now we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next. So see it, it's in that one. So we're going over here, and we're going to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. In the next one, we're going to do 1. In the next stitch, we're going to go under that V, and we're going to do 2, 1, and 2. And we're going to do 1, and we're going to do 2 in the next one, and 1, and 2 in the next one, and 1, 2 in the next one, and 1, and then we have one more stitch. See, it's right there. So we're going to do 2 in that one, and then we're going to count our stitches. And see, I got this popping up, but we can just kind of push it through because we're going to sew that in. But see what we have so far. Okay, so now we need to make sure we have 18 stitches. So here's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. See, there's 2 right there. Now our pattern, remember, see, it goes from row 4 to row 5. No, row 6. From 4 to 6. Okay, we just finished row 4. But if you remember, row 5 is work 1 single crochet in every single crochet. So that's what we're going to do. So we are not going to chain. We are not going to chain. We are not going to join. We're going to single crochet in every stitch. So I can leave the stitch marker in there. If it's too tight, that's fine. But we're going to go right in there and do 1 single crochet. We're going to take our hook out. There's our little loopy right there. So we're going to take our stitch marker out, and we are going to put it in our first single crochet, and I got to get it on both loops, so you can go frontwards or backwards, however. And there's our stitch marker, and we'll loop it back in. And now we have to do a single crochet in every one of these stitches, and when we get done we should have 18. Okay, so we're just going to go all the way around. We're going to have 18, and I'm going to meet you back. Okay, I finished row 5, and I brought my row counter over here, and I double counted. I have 18 stitches. Okay, so now we're ready for row 6. Row 6 says to do 1 single crochet in each of the first 2 single crochets. So it has a comma, so you would stop. And then you would do 2 single crochets in the next single crochet. And it says to repeat it from the front to the back. So what that means to do is do 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, then do 2. So we're doing another increase row, and when we get finished we're going to have 24 stitches in this row. So we're going to do 1 1 2 1 1 2 1 1 2. Okay, so let's do that together. And again, this is row 6. We are not going to join, and we are not going to chain. We're just going to continue. So we can leave that stitch marker there for 1 second if you can get in there, and do 1 single crochet. Take your hook out. There's the single crochet that we just did. Take your marker out and mark this first single crochet. Row 6 says to do 1 single crochet and another single crochet, and then 2 in this stitch. So we're going to do 1 1 2. So here's 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then 2 in this one. One in the next, 1 in the next, and 2 in this one. 1 in this one, 1 in this one, and 2 in this one. Okay, 1 in this one, 1 in this one, 2 in the next one, and we should have 3 stitches left, which we do. 1 2 3, and we're going to do 1 1 and then 2. So we're going to do 1 in here, 1 in this stitch, and 2 in this stitch. Okay, so now we should have 24. So let's count them. So we have 2 4 6 8 10 12 14 16 18 20 22 24. So that completed row 6. So I moved my stitch marker to row 6. And so we're looking at our pattern again. And remember, there's no row 7 on this pattern because we have to do 1 single crochet in every single crochet for our odd number rows. So that's what I'm going to do now. We're not going to, see, here's our toe. It's building. We're not going to chain and we're not going to join. We're going to start right here where our stitch marker is and do our first single crochet in row 7. I'm going to take the hook out, remove the stitch marker, and put my stitch marker in the first single crochet. There it is. And now I'm going to do 23 single crochets. And I'll meet you back. Okay, so I finished row 7. And again, row 7 was a row of single crochets all the way around, and you should have 24 single crochets. Now what I'm going to do before we move on is I'm going to turn it inside out and we're going to sew in our little tail. So I brought over my tapestry needle and my scissors. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see where we're going to go. We're going to go in these loops right here. Okay, now I kind of had a little thing there that I want to make sure I get in. So that could have been my slip knot or something like that. So I'm gonna just make sure that I get that. So I'm gonna pull it back this way and I'm gonna put my needle in this top of this loop here. There we go. You can see. Did you see where I went? Okay. So I'm just going to pull that in. And I'm coming around here. And I'm going to go right in here. And I think that was my little slip knot thing. But I'm going to go right in around these. If I can turn it so you can see. So, and when I do this, I always have to keep threading. I don't know. So we're going to go right inside here. Hopefully you can see. I just kind of want to go under those loops, but not all the way through to the outside. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it's wanting to be so difficult. There we go. And I'll just take a look on my outside and see how my outside came out. So that's what you're going for. And there's what your toe's looking like. You can picture your toes in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this off. Okay. And then there's my sock so far. Okay, so now we're getting ready to start row 8. So we have to look at our pattern again, and I have to find my hook. Okay, so we're ready for row 8. And row 8 says 1 single crochet in each of the first 3 single crochets, comma. And then 2 single crochets in the next. And the asterisk means stop. And you repeat it from the first asterisk to the second asterisk. So that means we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets and 1 stitch. So 1 1 1 2 1 1 1 2 all the way around, and when we get done we're going to have 30 stitches in this row. Okay, so here's my sock way over here. I'm not gonna chain, and I'm not gonna join. Now I'm going to take and go in that first loop where my stitch marker is, and I'm going to do my first single crochet just like every row we've been doing. I'm going to pull out my stitch marker, and I'm going to put it right under those 2 loops right there. And that marks my first stitch of row 8. So 1, and so then I do 1 in the next one, and 1 in the next one, and then I do 2 in this one. Okay, 1 in that one. I just want to make sure I didn't go in the same one. Yeah, I did not. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and then I want 2 in this one. Okay, so I'm going to meet you back and count your stitches, and when we come back you should have 30. Okay, I finished row 8. I counted my stitches and I have 30 stitches. Okay, so I did 1 1 1 and then 2. Okay, so that is row 8. Now you may be noticing that the sock is pretty thick because we're using a 4-ply yarn, but this is a bigger yarn to work with and a larger hook to work with, size G, so that you can get the hang of this. So this may be considered more of a slipper sock. So we're ready for row 9, and if you remember, we go from row 8 to 10 on our sheet. So that means that row 9 is a 1 single crochet in every single crochet stitch. So we're going to go do row 9 off camera, and when I come back I will have done row 9 with a single crochet in every stitch and still have 30 stitches before we move on to row 10. Okay, I completed row 9. Row 9 was a single crochet all the way around row. I have 30 stitches. There's my toe so far. Now back to the pattern, which is row 10. Round 10 says to do a single crochet in each of the first 4 single crochets, comma. Then it says to do 2 single crochets in the next single crochet, and repeat that from this asterisk to this asterisk. So that's 1 2 3 4, and then 2 in the next. And when we get done, we're going to have 36 stitches. Now what that's going to give us is a 5 to 6.5 size shoe for US. And that would include the width. But I'm going to keep doing mine. Right now we're going to do row 10, which is 4 single crochets then 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll review. Okay, so let's go back to our pattern. Now we just completed row 10. And the way this pattern is written, up to this point, it did increases for size 5.5 to 6, 7.5 to 9. Okay. And if you wanted to do a larger sock, which would be 9.5 to 10.5, you would do this additional increase, which would give you 5 single crochets and then 2. But we're not doing that. I'm doing between a 7.5 and a 9. So then what I'm going to do is we would come back to row 14. No, that's not right. Okay. Okay, I just completed row 10. And we have 36 stitches. So according to the pattern, rows 12, 14, and 16 are for larger size increases. Because see, if you look, row 12 you would do 5, row 14 you would do 6, and row 17 you would do, row 16 you would do 7. So see the increases, 5, 6, and 7. Well, we're done because we are just doing size 7.5 to size 9.5. Okay. From size 7.5 to 9. And we have 36 stitches. So we're going to skip all this and go over here to where it says all sizes. 36. That's us right there. So we're going to skip these rows. Now we did row 10, we have to do row 11. Row 11 is 1 single crochet in every stitch because it's an odd number row. So go ahead, I'm going to pause the video and let's do 1 row of single crochets ending up with 36 stitches. Okay, here we are with our sock again. Now I went ahead and finished the sock so that I could help with what was going on with the pattern. And what I decided was for a regular width of your foot, you should do 36. Okay, so that means you would do rows 1 through 10 and row 11 for a regular width 7.5 to 10.5. Okay, and if you had a wide width, you would continue till you had 42 or 45 stitches. And that would be your single crochet increases. And then the next row would be just all single crochets. So, because when I went to 42, it became too wide. Now, after the toe, you start the foot. So on your pattern, you're done with this first page, whether you're doing a wide or a regular width. So then you go to the next page, which says all sizes. Okay, so we're doing the regular width, and if you were doing the other 2 larger widths, you would still continue with what we're going to do now. To start the foot part, you're working in rounds, and you do 1 double crochet in every single crochet. And then our pattern says to read the crochet info. The crochet info says to do a slip stitch and then 3 chains and a double crochet. Okay, slip stitch and then a chain 3. Okay, so what you do is you have your 36, 42, or 45 stitches. Okay, and then what you do, so you be holding it like this. Okay, and you have your hook. Okay, what you do is you slip to join into the first stitch of that row. Then you chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet. Then you would do 35 double crochets, 1 in each single crochet. So you would end up with 36. Now, if you're doing the 45 or the 42, it's the same thing. You slip stitch in the first stitch of that round where we had the stitch marker, and you can remove the stitch marker. Chain 3, and then do the number of double crochets for your row, which would be 36 for the regular width, 42 or 45 for the larger widths. Now, how I determined that was I went ahead and I did some of these rows and I tried it on, and it was way too wide for my foot. So that's why I settled on 36 stitches in my toe. Okay, so we've got that. So you slip stitch to the first stitch where the stitch marker was, chain 3, and then do 36 double crochets. Now, you have to decide how many rows that you should do, okay? And how long it should be from the toe to the ankle before you start the heel. Okay, so what they're talking about, and here's a picture of a foot, is you have the toe, and we did that with 36 single crochets. Then this portion here we're doing in double crochets, but you have to measure from here to the front of your leg. So your foot is out flat like this, and this is your toe, and you would measure till your leg comes up. So on our pattern, it says that depending on your foot size, I did 7 inches, okay? If you have a smaller foot, you might do 6 1/4, or a smaller foot yet, you might do 5 1/2. If you have a larger foot, you would do longer. So you have to decide what size and how many inches. So where I'm talking about is, see where the leg goes up here? I'm talking about from the toe to the leg. And if you look, those are all double crochet rows. Now in my case, it was 7 inches. And this is 4-ply yarn, which is not normally used for socks. But if you were doing sock weight yarn, the number of rows here could be different because your yarn is thinner. you would use the hook that matches your yarn weight or the hook that is noted in the pattern, because we can't always buy these fancy yarns, but we can buy sock weight yarn, we can buy DK weight yarn, and do it accordingly. So I'm going to get my ruler. So for our medium width toe, whether you're using DK or sock weight yarn, was 2 inches. From this, that's how many rows we increase. So maybe 2 1/4 inches. Okay, so if you're using DK or sock weight yarn, increase your toe for a regular width till it's 2 1/4 inches. Now, how long to make your foot? I'm not including the heel. I'm just including the foot. From my toe to my leg is 7 inches. So we have 2 1/4 inches. So you would do enough rows of your double crochet to equal 7 inches for a size 9, 8 1/2, 9. Or measure it on your foot. And remember, these double crochets end when your leg comes in. Okay? Now we need to make the heel. So I would like you to stop the video, do the double crochet rows until it meets the front of your leg. Then come back and we're going to talk about the heel. Okay, now we're going to talk about the heel. Now, referring back to the pattern, and you can see that I've made notes on here so that when I do the second sock, I know. So I already know that I would do 36 stitches with this yarn to make 2 1/4 inches. But you would have to figure that out with the yarn that you're using and make a note so you can make your second sock. Okay, we finished the foot. Now we're going on to the heel. Now on these, we're going to start the heel. And then what this says is we're going to work single crochets back and forth over the first 24 stitches. Okay, depending on your yarn and the size of your foot will determine how many stitches. So you want to do it so that it is approximately almost 2 3/4 inch. So what that means, I'm going to tuck this in so that you can see this. Okay, so pretend that's not there. So what you're going to do, you're at the end of your row on your foot, right here. You are going to chain 1, you're going to join, you're going to chain 1, and in that same stitch where the chain 1 is, you're going to single crochet. You're going to single crochet all the way over to this side, okay? And you're going to be leaving a number of stitches unworked because we're constructing the heel part and we're going to be going back. So you would chain 1, single crochet. Now in my case with this 4-weight yarn, it was 24 stitches. Depending on the width, it could be 30 stitches or 32. But you figure you want to go approximately 2 3/4 inches both ways. So what would that be? 4.5 inches, right? So what you would do, like I said, you join your double crochet, you chain 1, and you single crochet 24 single crochets. You chain 1, turn your work. Back and forth, it said. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Single crochets, back and forth. Okay, and then of course this would be open. How long do you do that? Well, for a size 9, you do it for 2 3/4 inches because you want to measure your foot. Okay, see, I got size 9. Okay, then after you've done that, so pause the video and do 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches, and you can measure it on yourself. Put your foot in the sock and give yourself, don't go past your foot. Okay, so you continue single crochets, chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch until you have approximately 2.5 inches. And of course it's going to depend on how long your foot is. Try it on. So put your foot in there. Try it on. And we're going to do a row where we're going to slip stitch it. Let's see, we're going to do a row where we decrease. And we're going to do another row to slip stitch it together. So keep that in mind, because if you put it around the back of your foot and it's too long, and then you had 2 more rows to go, you know, can imagine. So you just got to kind of eyeball it. In my case, I did the 2 3/4 inches. Okay, let's see. Yeah. And then it finally ended up being 3 inches, because you can see right here is where I started those single crochets. Okay, so back to the pattern. You've single crocheted, chained 1 single crochet, and turned your work until it reaches, they're saying approximately 12 to 13 rows, so if that helps you. Okay, now what you're going to do next is you're going to divide the distance in half. So what that means is the part that's hanging off here, that's your heel, you're going to fold it together, okay, so that the sides match. You got this edge is raw, but what you're going to do is you're going to measure the center and put a stitch marker. Okay, so it's going to be spread it open with a stitch marker in the center. You're going to chain 1 and single crochet till you have 1 before the stitch marker. Then you're going to single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2 together. So that would be those 4 stitches around the center. Then you're going to come back up here, continuing your single crochets. Then you're going to fold your sock right sides together. Okay? And then you're going to slip stitch your heel together. So you got right sides facing, and then you're going to slip stitch this together. Now you can choose to cut your yarn and sew this with a needle if you would like. And then when you get to this back of your heel, you bury your thread. Either way, if you're going to slip stitch it crocheting, then you would cut your yarn and fasten it off. If you're going to sew the side together, that's okay too. And then if the next thing you would do is try your shoe on. And basically you have a slipper. And I do have another tutorial that's just a slipper. And you can make it a sock very similar. The only part that would be different is coming up. Because see, look, there's a slipper. Okay, so go ahead and sew up your sock. And meet me back. Now, we're ready to start the leg part in this case. Okay, so I'm getting out of the camera. We have our pattern here. Okay, so what it says was to turn the sock inside out, which we did, and with the wrong side facing, you would do slip stitches through both layers and fasten off. And that's what I just told you to do. Now we're ready to start the leg. Okay. Now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be working around, starting from the back seam. Okay. And that's what this says. Insert a marker in the piece. So if you needed to put a marker where you sewed it up, that's where they're talking about. Okay? Now work over single crochets and over the double crochet front of the foot. So what that's saying is you would join your yarn back here at your seam. And you got your hook. And you stick your hook in and you make a slip knot. And you pull that slip knot through where you had your hook. You chain 3 and that counts as your first double crochet. Now what they want you to do is they want you to find, depending on how big your foot is, 15 double crochets here. 15 or 14 across the front of your foot, which is the front of your leg, and 15 on the size of this. So you guys can do math. So they're looking at 42, 48, or 54. Okay, so what they're talking about is having approximately 15 stitches go on the side of the heel, like this, 15 stitches, and then approximately 15 across the front of the foot, and approximately 15 back here. But on the pattern here, it's saying 42. So that gives you some leeway. And I think what I did was I divided the 42 by 3, and that gave me 14. So I had approximately 14 stitches on each side. And you have to look for a place to insert, see, on the side. So you have a row of just double crochets. You slip stitch the first double crochet, which will be like over here in the back. So you start here, go all the way around with double crochets, and then you slip stitch to the first double crochet. So if you want to go ahead and do that, then you can stop the video and go ahead and go all the way around with double crochets. Now, if you're going to make your top of your sock with these openings, that's where the next page of the chart comes in. And this shows you how you're going to accomplish that. The star means that that's the starting row we just did of all double crochets. The next row, we slip stitch this row together. Then we chain 3, which counts as this first double crochet. Then you do 3 double crochets, so you have a total of 4. You chain 2, the dashes stand for a chain, and you skip 2 stitches. So after the skip 2, then you do 4 more double crochets. So you're back here. See what I did? My first one is the chain 3. I did 3 double crochets. I chained 2 and I skipped 2. Then I did 4 double crochets, chain 2, skip 2, 4 double crochets, chain 2, skip 2, all the way around. And when I came back, I chained 2 and slipped stitched to complete that round. If you want to do that row, go ahead, stop the video and do that row. Now the next row is where it becomes a little more tricky. You're right here. The first thing they want you to do is I went ahead and I chained 3. Right there's my chain 3. And then I skipped just 1. Then I did 2 double crochets. And then what this means is that this is a 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. So that's what your row becomes now. We're on the 3rd row. So 4 double crochets. And then this one, I'm not on the camera. This one I do 2 in the chain 2 space. And every 2 double crochets, 2 in the chain. Chain 2, skip 2 double crochets, and you do 4. And you just keep following this along. So the next row, you chain 3, and you do 1 double crochet in the chain space. Chain 2, 2 double crochets. 2 double crochets in the chain space, chain 2, and so on. Then the next row, you can get the pattern of how it's going. Now the reason it has this section is because it wants you to do, according to our pattern, it says to work. This group 7 times. And then this time, you do this section one time. After you do the 7, then you do it one time and finish your sock. The top of your sock is supposed to measure 8 inches. Now mine doesn't. Where's my ruler? Mine, the top of my sock would be... Okay, so my sock measures from that double crochet row. Mine measures 7 inches, approximately. And it's suggesting that you go till it measures 8 inches. So it would be another row. Okay. So hopefully you would... Sorry about that. My tablet ran out of room for recording. So my sock ended up measuring, the leg ended up measuring 7 inches. And the pattern says, then to work in a reverse single crochet, which would be the top of your sock. So I'm going to go grab my hook and show you how to do a reverse single crochet. Okay, now we have to finish the top of our sock. So we completed the top of the sock, okay, or the leg, and then it says to work a reverse crochet 1 round over all stitches and fasten off. So I will show you how to do a reverse single crochet. So let's do that. Okay, so you have your sock here, and we joined after our last row of our leg, and I chained 1. So what we have to do with a reverse single crochet is to go in the opposite direction of our single crochet. So normally you chain 1 and you would go right in here and do a single crochet, you know, right in this next loop. But in this case, it wants us to do a reverse. So that means we're going to come to the right. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that next stitch, which is right here on the top of that double crochet. You're going to take your hook, and it is going to be awkward. You're going to take your hook, come around, and go in that loop, kind of backwards. Then you yarn over and pull that loop right up through that hole. Then you yarn over again and pull through. So we're going to see this several times. Okay, now we're going to do it in this chain space 2 times. So here we go. I'm going to take my hook, go into the hole, come back out. Yarn over, pull it through the hole, and I have 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Let's do it again. Take your hook, bring it towards you, go into the chain 2 space and come out. Yarn over, pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. Now, the next one is going to be right in here, which is the top of our double crochet. I'm going to take my hook, come towards me, and put my hook in that hole, yarn over, pull back through. Now these are a little twisty because, and I'll figure out which direction it goes in here. Oh. Okay. Go in. Okay. And this is normal, and you'll see it as we go. Okay. Go through the hole, yarn over, pull back through the hole, pull the yarn through two. And see, this is giving us this ribbing across the top. Go in the hole, out, yarn over, pull through the hole, pull through two. Go in the top of the stitch and out the back, yarn over. You have 2 loops on your hook, and there you go. Now we're back to the chain 2 space. We're going to go in the hole and out the back, yarn over, pull up 2 loops, pull through 2. Position it again, go in the hole, in the hole, it's out the back, yarn over, pull up 2 loops, come back through, and pull through. Okay, and now we're going to come over here because this is our double crochet, and right inside there underneath that V-stitch is the top of the double crochet. Insert your hook in that hole, come out the back, yarn over, pull it back through, pull through 2. So we got 4 here in a row. So that was 1, and we got this one next. See, it's right there. See the hole right there? I'm going to take my hook in that hole, out the back, yarn over, pull back through, pull through 2. There's the stitch right there is where we're going. In, out the back, yarn over, pull through 2. And see the ribbing that we're getting on the top of our sock? Now, again, remember, this is 4-ply yarn, so it's more bulky. So this is good for a brim of a hat. In fact, I showed you a hat, a white hat that I just did, and that gives you a nice edging. But if you were doing 3-ply or less, it wouldn't be as bulky. Okay, we're going back in this next top of this next stitch and out the back, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, continue doing it, and I'm going to show you how to join it at the end. Okay, I finished going all the way around, and you can see it made a nice little finished edge. And this is called a reverse single crochet. And I have a friend that's left-handed, and she just loves it because it just is so much easier for her. Okay, so I brought my needle and my scissors to show you how to finish this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut a little bit of yarn. Not very much, but just a little. And I'm going to take and pull it through. And if you look, right there is where we're going to join it into the other side. So we're going to take this and thread it in our needle. Whoop. Thread it in our needle. Yep. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to join it. And see how it just comes together real nice like that. And then, of course, you know, you can stitch some more and hide your thread and all that stuff. But You can't even see where it was. Okay, so there's our sock. Now, again, I just want to mention, I can't even get the whole sock in the picture, but this was done in 4-ply yarn. This was a tutorial. If you look at this toe, see how this toe is kind of like this? It's kind of stiff. And see, that's because I used too small of a hook with too small of stitches. But we learned something here. We learned the length of the toe that we need for a size 9. We learned that we go up 7 inches. We learned the heel. We learned that we could finish this off and just make it as a slipper. We learned how to add the leg. And there is your sock tutorial. So if you have any questions or suggestions, please add them in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed making your sock. The pattern, I'm going to link it below. And it'll be linked below. And there you go. Thanks for watching. Please like the video and leave your comments below. Bye.